My slow progress through the Soulsborne games made another step forward this year when I finished Dark Souls 3. So I have now played the three Dark Souls games. Dark Souls 3 was an achievement of design. I know that Elden Ring brings it even farther, but Dark Souls 3 was stunning in boss design, in variety, all of it. All of it, all of it, all of it. I didn't finish the Ringed City DLC, so I could go back and do that sometime. But I played through the rest of it, and the other DNC, what was it? DLC. What was it? The Ashes of Arendelle, I believe? Anyway, an achievement? Absolutely. I know a lot of people say play Dark Souls 1, then Dark Souls 3. I did play Dark Souls 2 in between there. I am a Dark Souls 2 apologist. I think that there are a lot of ways that it's not as good as the game that came before and after it. I think, though, that it is still better than almost any Soulsborne or Souls-like game that wasn't made by FromSoft. So, if you're looking to get more, it's definitely a place to do it. And I think that it is a good game in its own right. So, just giving it a shout out for, what it is.
And so it is that ash seeketh embers.
So I played some of EA's reboot of Star Wars Battlefront. And I mean I was playing mostly with the computer and stuff, just checking out what it had, because I loved Battlefront 2, the original Battlefront 2. And what it had was very, very pretty graphics. But I don't know, it just didn't have the magic. It didn't have the magic that the original Battlefront games had, where you felt like you were part of, a star war, rather than just a smaller battle. I don't know what caused that difference in feeling. Why it felt a little more like a slick modern multiplayer shooter. I mean, it was a slick modern multiplayer shooter, but I don't know where we lost some of the old feeling. But it was a neat time while we were doing it.
Your pathetic rebellion ends here.
Shadowhand was an interesting game. So it was a female-led kind of what I like to call Regency era fantasies. So Regency era are, your Jane Eyres, your English country estates, with your fine, cultivated people, Bridgerton style things. And it's a fantasy in that, it's a swashbuckling adventure that is totally divorced from reality. It might be theoretically set in Regency era England, but really that's just for the vibe, and everything else is about as connected to reality as Conan the Barbarian, which is fine. It's a fun era to set things, and if you wanted to actually do the historical stuff, it's a really complicated era. But maybe you just want the fashion, man. And that's totally fine by me, because they had some pretty wild fashion. So, the other thing about Shadowhand, it was a RPG. It was also a card game. But the card game it was solitaire. I think the only thing I can do is just show you a clip, from the trailer or whatever. However, I am decided to edit this video. It's a fun time. I enjoyed it. I would play more solitaire-based RPGs, or what have you, solitaire-based games. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Sometimes it's a little BS with the RNG, but I mean, that's Solitaire. Every once in a while, I get a hankering for a arcade racing game. You know, I am not a big racing game or driving game person, so I like them arcadey when I like them. But you know, every once in a while, you got that feeling that you want to play an outrun type of thing. In this case, early on in the year, in January, I played a game called Retro Wave. It was fine. It was nifty. It was colorful. Wasn't something I'd write home about. Relatively cheaply made and all of that. But, yeah, it was nifty. I played a little Valheim this year. That's the Norse afterlife survival game. You know, building your base, fighting bosses. It is very, very cool. I mostly bought it at this point to support the early access. You know, there's that whole thing of wishlisting supports games. Buying them also supports games. So if there's a game that you want to keep existing and you have the extra cash to buy it, buying it, even if you don't have time to play it then, helps the sales numbers. The sales numbers helps the teams, and that helps make those kinds of games keep happening. I really enjoyed my time dipping my toe into it. I didn't get super far. There was the Mistlands update at Sense, which apparently radically updates the game. So I'm excited to see where that game goes and develops. Sifu was one of the newer games. Well, it was a new game this year. New release. One of the new ones that I played this year. Really enjoyed it. The combat felt so smooth and good and excellent. I believe I played a little on channel. Streamed a little bit. The gimmick here is that, you know, slightly Arkham-y combat. The gimmick is that when you die, you come back to life older, right where you were. The more you die in a short period, the more older you get. And as you get older, you actually get more powerful with your strikes, but you have less health. And certain skills you can only unlock when you're younger. And it's a rogue light in that you can permanently unlock skills on these runs so that it doesn't matter the next time you go. And you have to try to get through all 5 levels, you know, before you die of old age. The story was it was light, but a bit nifty. The level design was very cool. The enemies I really enjoyed fighting and figuring out how to best take them down. Each encounter was like a little combat puzzle box, which I really like. And it just felt good to play. I haven't played through the New Game Plus for the true ending. I should do that at some point, but there's so many games to play. Another new release this year was Total War Warhammer 3. I played through it. I played a little bit as Kislev, and then I played as Northern Cathay, and it was rad. It was rad. I need to go back and play the other factions. I need to do the Mortal Empires campaign, but probably as the dwarves. Love the dwarves. But I know that there was a lot of, you know, controversies back and forth at different points. There were some missteps made, I think, in the way the Chaos Realms play out, in that they're kind of neat the first time, but I'm not sure about the 5th time you play through, how neat some of those are going to be. But I think the factions are super interesting. The Chaos Rifts that show up were a bold design that I don't think I like in the long term, but that's fine because I have the Mortal Empires campaign. I think as a for the individual games campaign, Warhammer 2 was the best, but a welcome addition and a solid end to the trilogy.
Summon the Elector Counts!
Superliminal, I actually played on the channel. It
Isn't that what
is like if Portal was on drugs. It was a time. I really enjoyed it. I've never played anything quite like it. I still to this day don't understand what kind of technology tricks and game engine tricks they had to do to pull off some of these things. Absolutely wild. Would recommend. It broke my brain several times. Just, yeah, totally recommend it.
All you've got to do is wake up.
I played through a little nifty thing called a Car Puzzler. It was just you had to get cars through the little colored, things. It was basically one of those path puzzles, and there were different restrictions and some color swaps and stuff. It was a nifty little thing. I don't even know how I got it. It probably was in a bundle I got at some point. But yeah, if that has snuck its way into your Steam library, it's not a waste of time. Love Thyself Horatio is a very special game to me for an odd reason. So the Endless series started off as Endless Space, and then you had Endless Space 2, you had Endless Legend, and those are strategy games. But they made this rich world, this rich mythos, with these factions and whatnot, and they said, why do we only make strategy games in this? We have the world, we have the mythos, why don't we just make all kinds of games? Now, Love Thyself Horatio is a dating sim visual novel. Not exactly my kind of game normally. But Horatio is a race in the Endless Legend, or in the Endless Space mythos, that is one dude named Horatio cloned trillions of times. They're a whole faction that's just clones of this one dude, Horatio. So, as a dating sim, that's pretty funny. And as a strategy series, that's a wild thing to just make a dating sim. So, and it's free. It's the other thing. I didn't spend money on a visual novel dating sim. It's a fun time. It's on the channel. It's very silly. And I want to see more series just say, we already have the setting all set up. I want to make I want to make this kind of game. Let's just do it.
We are Horatio. Look upon us and be awed.
Kyle is Famous is a very special game. It is like you are playing, the way I describe it is it's like you're playing a tabletop RPG where your dungeon master, or game master depending on whatever you're playing, is the most yes and positive improver in the world. You are Kyle, and you're always and Kyle is famous and is trying to get on with his day, and you're just presented with options, never more than like 3 or 4, but following through on these options just compounds in ways that you don't ever expect. You wake up, you're expected to prepare for your job, go to your job, as an interviewer on a late night show, do your job. But, while you're getting ready, there's a locked door in your hallway, and you don't have the key. And so, like, something you might do is look for the key, but, you're not going to find the key. You don't find the key. Well, the way to get through that door is when you woke up, you just keep lying in bed. You just keep lying in bed until you waste away to nothing and become a ghost. And then you can, as a ghost, go through the door. That's the kind of logic that is the core of Kyle is Famous. You'll become a detective. You'll fight demons. There are laser swords. And you're always constantly ending up back at a late night show doing an interview. It's a time. I recommend it. It's buck wild. And it's one of the few games that consistently, the writing went places I wasn't expecting. So that is a hard thing to do, and therefore I heartily recommend it.
Kyle is complete. Kyle is famous.
Yet another game that released this year was Sniper Elite 5. The Sniper Elite games are basically all the same. They're shinier, the levels are different, with each release, but they're basically all the same. They're 7 out of 10 shooters with a focus on sniping that just have a soft spot. I just have a soft spot for. I just like them. They are a little silly. You can set up ridiculous chain reaction stuff. You can set up traps. There's light stealth mechanics. It just feels really good when you manage to find an overlook and you just guide a bullet. You just see it go up and then arc down, and the wind catch it and just twist it right into an enemy. If you liked any of the previous ones, it's basically the same thing. They had some new ideas, they played around with them, and is it the best of them? It's about the same, but I enjoyed it. Bartlow's Dread Machine is an interesting one. It's a twin-stick shooter, but the gimmick is you have to remember the old, early 1900s arcade machine style, where you could have little figures going along grooves, right? These set paths. Well, that's what you're playing. You're playing like a full video game as if it was one of those machines. So it has a really cool aesthetic where all of the enemies and you are stuck on these paths, and then the way the settings, the backgrounds work, and it's will be like a scrolling, piece of vinyl, or all of these kinds of things. So it was super aesthetic. It was okay as a game. It wasn't amazing, but I still enjoyed playing it because it really took that concept as far out as I think they could take it. It was a very challenging twin-stick shooter, but good. Good. I played more Crusader Kings 3 because Crusader Kings might be my favorite series. It's just as more DLC comes out, I'll keep buying it and I'll keep playing it. and I'll play Crusader Kings 3 until we have a Crusader Kings 4 in 10 years. So it'll always be on my list. Slay the Spire. That is our tower climbing roguelite card game. I don't think I've technically beaten it because, there's always one more level of beating it with these kinds of games. But I played a good bit of it. I enjoyed it. I enjoy whenever a card game like that lets you build massively broken combinations of things. I think that's my favorite way for a card game to be, is massively broken in the player's advantage, because it makes you feel very clever without you having to actually be very clever. So that's always great. I played Crypt of the Necrodancer, this time rhythm action roguelite, and yeah, got through all the way to the final boss. I only dealt with it as Cadence, the original character. I'm not particularly... I like a roguelite now and again, or roguelike now and again, but I'm not like a hardcore player who's going to really get everything out of them. That's just not me. But, if it's you, I'm glad that they make them that way. But it's not me. So I probably got everything I'm going to get out of Crypt of the Necrodancer.